It's time for another edition of Lewis at Large with Warner Lewis. 60 minutes of smart talk radio with interesting guests from all walks of life begins right now. So sit back and enjoy. And now, from the flight deck, here's your host, Warner Lewis.
Well, welcome everybody to another segment of Lewis at Large. Yours truly, Warner Lewis, as always from the flight deck, and that means some smart talk radio is in your future. And man, this segment is no exception. We're going to be spending some time with Erin Murphy. Who is Erin Murphy? Let me take you back a bit. You knew her as Tabitha. That's probably all I really need to say. But for those of you that had lived on that desert island for a while, Tabitha was the daughter of the Stevens family on Bewitched. She played that part for many years. She has been involved in acting the vast majority of her life. She's talented, but she's also done many other things, including some community involvement work. She's an author. She's done a little bit of producing on her own, and again, many other things. Boy, we are really, Erin, I've said this before, there's nothing like a good introduction, and that was nothing like a good introduction. How are you, my friend?
Well, thank you. I'm great. That was a wonderful introduction.
Okay. Well, let's do this. Let's take you back, and let's go back. Erin Murphy, you began your career young. Tell us about how you were, so to speak, discovered, and tell us about the early roles.
Well, I started acting when I was 11 months old. I was lucky enough to live in California where the majority of things are filmed, and I was kind of discovered on the street in my stroller and went from being a baby to being a working baby and did commercials. And one of my first commercials was with Ronald Reagan back when he was still an actor. And after doing a few commercials, the call came for Bewitched. And I have a fraternal twin sister, and they were mainly auditioning twins. And we got the call and auditioned a few times, and next thing I knew, I was hired.
Well, okay, now I have a question for you. And you said they were mainly auditioning twins. Tell me about that.
Well, child labor laws, even back then, were still around, and babies are only allowed to work on the set a certain number of hours. So
okay.
they had used a couple sets of twins in the early black and white episodes of Bewitched. And when season 3 came around, the show went to color, and they wanted to increase the part of Tabitha. So
right.
they did a search looking for blonde twins who looked like Elizabeth Montgomery. They auditioned a couple actresses who weren't twins, but they really wanted to do that so they could have someone work more hours. But my sister and I aren't identical. We're fraternal twins. So even from the very first episodes, they made the decision that they used me from the front and they used my sister more from the back or from a distance or kind of like a quick walk by. And after the first year, I was able to work more hours, and then I took over the part.
You were extremely young, and the show went for 8 seasons, so we're certainly watching you grow up. But I'm curious as to, even at that young age, we've had Barry Livingston on this show. We've had John Provost, who played Timmy on Lassie. We've had Stanley Livingston on the My Three Sons guys. And I'm curious as to your take. When you were growing up, did you look at as your life, so to speak, or what you were doing with your time as different than your buddies and your friends, or was it just this was just what you do?
Well, I knew that it was different because days I wasn't filming, I would go to regular school, and if I had a half day, they would send a limo to pick me up at school, and the class would come out and wave goodbye to me. So I guess that was different.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Since I was really raised on a TV set, it seems normal to me. I mean, I knew that all my friends weren't working every day, but it's just the way I grew up. It didn't seem weird at all.
It probably would not have crossed your mind during the run of Bewitched, but I'm curious as to, has there been a time in your life, and I know you're very, very busy with a lot of other things, but what have you thought about and thinking, you know what, God, it really would have been interesting to have been an XYZ, a doctor, a lawyer, whatever.
Because I haven't thought that because you can do whatever you want. Just because you're an actor when you're a
right.
kid doesn't mean you can't pursue other things. So, I mean, I've done so many different things in the entertainment business, outside of the entertainment business, done some radio. I mean, I've done a lot of different things, and those were the things that did interest me. So, I mean, when I was really young, I thought maybe I'd be a veterinarian. I always had the option to pursue other things. It was just, I somehow always kept being drawn back to entertainment. It's kind of my love, and I've kind of gravitated towards careers in the business.
You have 6 children, is that correct?
I do. I have 6 sons.
Wow.
So yes.
Okay. So you spend a lot of energy there. Tell us about working with 6 kids. What kind of challenges that presents? Because it must bring you also tremendous joy as well.
Oh, absolutely. I grew up with one sister, and my favorite TV show was The Brady Bunch, so I always kind of wanted to have a big family. It was something that I wanted since I was little. So the main challenges, I guess, with raising children and working is juggling, and I think that's for, any working parent, mother or father, kind of, juggling work life, home life, and making sure that everything's in balance. And I've always kind of tipped the scales towards home. That's one of the reasons why you didn't see me, on a sitcom or something when I was in my 20s and early 30s, because I was raising children, and I made the decision that I would rather be home raising the kids, because it's such a short time in life when they're home and they kind of need you. So, I mean, I did other jobs where I'd, work a few hours while they were at school. So there's just balance there.
One of the things that I noticed, again, as part of a balance, you have done quite a bit of community service work, and you're actively involved in Cure Autism now and Autism Speaks. Any particular reason those two, or is just one of many?
I've been involved with community service as far back as I can remember. I mean, there were things that we do with Bewitched. And then, I don't know, I've always had a strong sense of community and that it is important to give back. So in high school, I was involved with different social groups. And as I got older, I was president of the Junior Women's Club. And I always gravitated towards children's charities, animal charities, things that are close to home. Because I've lent my name to some of the, national things where, they're raising large sums of money for big things, but sometimes I feel that I see more of a reward focusing on community things where I can get a park built in my town and things like that. But the reason I kind of veered towards autism charities is one of my children has autism, and I'd been kind of peripherally involved with, Special Olympics, building a handicapped accessible playground before I had a child who was diagnosed with special needs. And then once my son was diagnosed with autism, I kind of sought out information, and I thought it was important to kind of lend my voice and show support. Because even with a small amount of fame, people are willing to listen to what I have to say. So, I mean, if I'm going to be on the radio or be on the red carpet, I'd always rather talk about something of substance rather than what I'm wearing.
I can imagine for sure. Erin, I bet a lot of people do not know this, that following Bewitched, you actually turned down the opportunity to be on the Waltons television show. Tell us about that a little bit.
Well, Bewitched wasn't supposed to go off the air. We went away for our vacation, and we were supposed to come back for another season. And then the decision was made. Elizabeth Montgomery and her husband, Bill Asher, just decided they didn't want to do the show anymore. So we got a phone call that it was canceled, and a call came in that they were casting a part on the Waltons. And I was already scheduled to go to Girl Scout camp. So it was one of those things where, I was kind of in the car on the way to camp, and I don't know. I don't regret it. I think it was a good decision at the time.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Girl Scout camp's Girl Scout camp.
Absolutely. I have great memories of Girl Scout camp.
I am very curious to see your take. You're still very involved with show business at a variety of different levels, but you've done some news programming as well and hosted some shows and done some other things. But I'm curious as to, based on your experience as a child actor in Hollywood, a child on a similar show, let's just a sitcom, for example, would their Hollywood experience, for the most part, mirror yours, do you think, or has the business changed and the environment changed where it's completely different now?
Well, I would have to say that everyone's experiences in acting on a set are completely different. I'm friends with most of the former child stars from, my decade and following decades, including all the people you mentioned, and all of our experiences are similar and different, because it's not just the experience on the set and the individual people you're working with, it's your experience away from the set and your family life and the things that you choose to do when you're not working. So I think it depends who you're working with. I think every single set is different. I mean, some people are, more fun and some people are more serious, and I think it's like any workplace. It would be a different experience. I'm sure every McDonald's you go into, the manager is a little different. Right. So I think the experiences are different for any job.
What about, let's talk about your family. Again, if you just joined us, yours truly, Warner Lewis from the flight deck of Lewis at Large Radio. And in this segment, got a good one going here talking to Erin Murphy. You know her as Tabitha for 8 seasons on Bewitched, and you have seen her on everything from HGTV to CNN. She is still very active, not only in the business, but also in the process of being a mother to 6 boys and also the volunteer work that she does. Let's talk about the Bewitched family. Gosh, what a wonderful cast that was there. Some tremendous actors. Indeed, it must have been, even at 8 years old, it must have been quite a thrill.
Well, it was. I wasn't thrilled that they were famous actors because I didn't know them as famous actors. Right. But they were great people to work with. And, I mean, everyone treated me like a family member, and it really did feel like a family there on set. So I was lucky to work with some wonderful people.
What about your, after the show is over and as you grew into a young lady, I'm curious about your relationship with Elizabeth Montgomery, because there did seem to be, even at your young age, quite a chemistry between you two on that set.
Absolutely. We stayed in touch, but we mainly stayed in touch through her children, who were my age and my friends, and are still my friends. So it's, in some ways, I always equate relationships on set. A lot of times for the kids, it's almost like a teacher relationship where you have a teacher and you love them and they're your favorite teacher, and then you go on to the next grade and you don't see the old teacher as much, but you still have memories of them. So we stayed in touch, but it was more that she was the parent of my friends.
Okay, so as you grew older, let's talk about your life. What was Erin Murphy doing when she graduated from high school? Take us forward from there.
I graduated from high school at 16, which is very young. But,
all right.
Graduated, went off to college. And
got your driver's license the same year?
Yeah, actually, I got my driver's license after I went to college, which is crazy. But I went to college with a bike. But I was trying to decide what I wanted to do with my life, how to pick a career and a major. And for some reason, since I'd been an actor, I kind of never thought of it as a career opportunity. So I kept thinking, should I go into business? Should I go into finance? And I couldn't figure out that really what I wanted to do was work in the entertainment business. So it kind of took me a few years to figure out I still want to be in this business, and it is a viable career opportunity.
Right. So, okay, so what do we do in college then?
I had fun. I was in a sorority. No, college was fun. But
you bet it is.
Yeah, but it was one of those things where after college I kind of focused on different things in the business. I thought, okay, I do love entertainment. I taught acting after college for many, many years. I worked on, I bought a ranch in Arizona and worked on every single film and TV show that came into town. And I did absolutely every different job you could do on a set. I did makeup. I worked in casting. I worked as a second assistant director. I worked wrangling extras. I did everything kind of to decide what I'm most interested in the set. And it all came back to, I love being in front of the camera. I mean, I feel more at home on a TV and movie set than anywhere else. It just feels so comfortable to me. But I do like being in front of the camera.
What about your motto, they say, is the joy is in the journey, and based on this conversation, I can certainly see why.
Yes. I can explain that because it seems self-explanatory. It's not really. What it is people are always so focused about, they want to do this. And they're always focused on some goal off in the future. Like, I want to be this. I want to go there. And it's like they kind of forget that getting there is half the fun. So you have to kind of focus on where you are now instead of what you will be doing. And I came up with that motto, sadly and shockingly, after the actress Dana Plato passed away. She was on, can't even think of the show, with Todd Bridges and Gary Coleman. And,
oh, yeah.
And she had passed away, and I got a call to do the Sally Jesse Raphael show.
Yeah.
And while I was doing the show, there were, many other child actors there, and I'd done several talk shows with Dana Plato. And every time I saw her, she was so focused on, I'm going to get it cleaned up. I'm going to, do this and get a house. And she was always so focused on what she was going to do that she didn't just stop and enjoy where she was. So I think you have to kind of stop and smell the roses.
What about, again, you're a mother, you're involved still with show business, you're involved in a wide variety of things. Tough to balance it, or is it just something that you're just sort of used to and comes pretty natural at this point?
Well, I like to do everything. When I was little in an interview, someone said, what do you want to do with your life? What do you want to learn? I said, I want to know everything. I have such a thirst for knowledge. So I hate the idea of thinking, okay, I'm married, I'm going to sit on a couch and watch TV every day. I teach acting still, and I was talking to a group of people last night, and I was saying, you can always decide to do something else. That part of what makes life so interesting is you could wake up tomorrow and say, I want to learn how to salsa dance. I'd like to learn a new language. So I think the thing that keeps me interesting and a better parent and a better actress is constantly evolving and doing new things and going new places, and it makes life fun.
Do you, is there any desire on your part? Have you, I do not know this. I guess I should know this. Have you done stage work?
I've done one play in my life.
Okay.
And I have since sworn to never, ever do theater again.
Really? Okay.
I love it. I go to almost every local production. I love going to New York and seeing everything on Broadway. But for me, I don't like doing the same thing. As I just said, I don't like doing the same thing over and over again. So doing a play was so monotonous and just awful. And with a sitcom, every single week you're doing a new script. So you're working with the same people, but it's constantly changing and something new. There was something about saying the same lines, even though it should be different. You make it a little different every time. The play I chose to do for my one and only performance was Shakespeare. It was Macbeth.
Oh,
so there's not a lot of liberty to ad-lib with Shakespeare. And I loved it. And then I hated it. I thought I will never do it again. And maybe like a one-time thing I would do, because I love the feedback from the audience and making people laugh. But no, I could never do a long-running play. It was just a nightmare.
So Erin Murphy has sort of some thespian ADD. Is that sort of what the deal is?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say that. I think with anything, you don't want to do the exact same thing every day. Like I admire people who work in factories. Everyone needs bottles and cans, but I could not be the person like stamping the same, like doing the same motion over and over. It would make me crazy.
Boy, that's good to know. So off the assembly line you go immediately. Let's talk about, I would like to talk and explore a little bit. You have a love affair also with horses. Tell us about that.
I have a love affair with all animals. When I was very young, every year you go to see Santa Claus and you tell Santa what you want for Christmas. Every Christmas for my entire life, I asked for a pony. And then as I got older, I asked for a horse. And for some reason, Santa didn't bring that to me, probably because we lived in a neighborhood with a little yard. But the minute I turned 21 and got the money from Bewitched, I was responsible with it. And I bought a house and I bought a horse. And I have loved animals forever. So we're lucky now, my husband and family and I have a 10-acre ranch just outside of Los Angeles, and I have horses, and I raise alpacas, and have a small knitwear company called Erin Murphy Knits, and we have goats, and 4 dogs, and 3 cats, and 2 snakes, and at this very moment, I'm hatching chickens in my laundry room. I got a chicken coop for Christmas, so I can fairly and firmly say I love animals.
Wow! Again, if you just joined us, we're talking to indeed loaded with energy, Erin Murphy. You know her from Bewitched as Tabitha for many, many years, but again, you've also seen her on everything from a little bit of some infomercials. You've also seen her on interview shows, HGTV, and more. All right, now I got a question for you. Let's talk a little bit about Erin Knit. Was it Erin Knits and Sews? Is that right?
It's Erin Murphy Knits.
Erin Murphy Knits.
And we have alpacas. And alpacas are an animal in the camelid family.
Yep.
They're similar to llamas, except their fiber is much softer than a llama. It's soft like cashmere.
Do they spit?
And what they spit for two reasons only. They spit if they're pregnant, and they spit if they're fighting with each other over food. So if someone spits at you, it's either pregnant or it's fighting over food. They don't go and chase you and spit at you. They spit at you kind of as a warning.
Here's something that's wonderful. Our audience watching that show never thought that Tabitha would tell them that alpacas spit when they're pregnant.
So you learn something by listening to the radio. But so I have these alpacas. Once a year, you shear the alpacas, and I ended up with bags and bags of alpaca fiber, and I learned how to spin it into yarn. I thought, okay, I'm going to start a small company. I'll support the local economy, which, I'm all for. So I would send it to local mills, either in California or other places in the United States, and they'd process it into yarn. And I started knitting up hats and scarves, and I donate them to children's charities. I sell them through my company. It's kind of a fun thing to do. And also I used it as a way to find out about a platform called crowdfunding, which is kind of a new thing in the last couple of years, where there's Kickstarter, Indiegogo, there's several crowdfunding platforms. And I found out about that on a business radio show, left the show, went home, immediately got online and looked into starting a Kickstarter campaign and launched it that day. So I'm writing a book about my adventures in crowdfunding, and I talk about crowdfunding and social media.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to let me jump back again.
Are you exhausted just listening to me?
No, I'm really not. I've got it might be a race between you and me who's got the worst ADD. I love it. It's and you know what it means? We can multitask.
Absolutely.
And multi-think. Absolutely. Okay, let me jump back to Bewitched on something that I feel bad. I do not remember this, but I do not remember Bewitched ice cream.
That's because it was the worst ice cream ever created. Baskin-Robbins, which is a company I love,
Yep.
Big fan of Baskin-Robbins, they used to come out with, and they probably still do, kind of specialty seasonal flavors.
Yep.
And one Halloween, they came out with a Bewitched ice cream. And Elizabeth Montgomery and Agnes Moorehead and I promoted it and did posters and did personal appearances and talked about how great it was. And it was truly, in my opinion, the worst ice cream in the history of Baskin-Robbins. It was vanilla, and then it had little crunchy orange and black pieces that were orange and licorice flavored,
Yep.
and it was not their best effort. So I don't blame you for not remembering it. I would like to forget it myself.
Well, it'd be interesting to go back and see what the sales were on that, but
well, they may have been good because people who like this, people like to support shows they like. So it might have been popular for that 1 month, but it wasn't good.
All right, let me, again, we're starting to wind down here a little bit, but would you consider the right role on a long-running television show? Is that of any interest to you?
I would. It's funny because this year is the 50th anniversary of Bewitched.
Right.
And this is I've been saying for the last 20 years probably that, when my kids grow up and when my kids are older, I'll get back into acting. That I kind of veered towards hosting and radio and other things because the schedule is more conducive to being a parent. But I always said when they got older, I would get back into acting. Unfortunately, I kept having kids. So, they would get older, but then I just have more. But at this point, my youngest is older. He's 11. And this is the year that I've told some of my casting director and producer friends that I would consider the right role. So I'm reading a couple scripts and deciding kind of which way I want to go in that next phase of acting.
Okay, I'm curious about that. Let's talk about this one quickly. A regular series, feature-length movie, apparently for you, not the stage.
TV,
but
I'm a TV girl, and I think it's probably unusual for an actor not to want to do a movie. I certainly wouldn't turn down a movie, but I have no real desire or goal to do movies. I grew up on TV, and I really love the family atmosphere of a TV show, especially if you're lucky enough to have a long-running show.
Yeah.
I like working with the same people and, being happy to see the same people and kind of growing as a group. So I love a TV set. I've done other shorter things where you're on a film for 3 months or something, but I like the TV format. I really do. So, that would be a goal. Plus, you go to work in the morning, you come home at night, you're in your own town and not, in Colorado, I'm in California. I would rather do a series.
what's your husband do? What does he do?
He's in financial services.
Okay.
So he's a finance guy. I was smart. I didn't marry an actor.
Right. He's a numbers guy.
Yep.
Okay. Hey, Erin, as we start to wind down here, share with our Lewis at Large listeners, if you would, how can people find out more, not only about the various endeavors that you're doing, but just find out a little bit more about you, a website, whatever.
I'm very, very easy to find online. If you Google Erin Murphy or Tabitha from Bewitched, I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I have a website. I have a couple websites. I have a website for our ranch because we film there, so you can see where I live. I mean, I'm very easy to find online, and I love social media. I think it's fascinating, and I take courses in it sometimes. So, yep, easy to find.
I'm curious, do you do a lot of traveling across the country making various appearances, or for right now, are you still involved kind of pretty much localized in raising the family?
No, I love to travel. It's one of the things I truly wish I could do more. So I do appearances in other places. I do love the opportunity when I film commercials and things, other places. I did an infomercial in Toronto. I love when I'm offered things like come to Japan for a week, so I love to travel.
Well, she is multi-talented, obviously. She likes to multitask. And, boy, let me ask you something. You're like me. When's the last time you read a big, long, thick book?
It's been a while. I love to read, but it's so hard to find the time to sit down and read. I mean, my mother-in-law unfortunately passed away a couple months ago, and I was going back and forth to Dallas to take care of her. So I would read, traveling. But it's been a while since I've really read a book, and it's something I miss.
Well, we've been talking with...
what about you? Do you have time to read books?
I know for a fact for a high school project I had to read Love Story, and I had to read J.D. Salinger book, but I'm trying short of that.
Catcher in the Rye.
Yeah. Anyway, Erin Murphy has been our guest. We know that we will probably not see her doing much Shakespeare, either in the round or live theater.
Never, ever again.
Never, ever again. And we probably won't see her eating Bewitched ice cream either. But we will see her doing many, many things, involved in her community, involved helping those with special needs, in particular autism, and involved with animals and involved with all kinds of things and TV projects as well. Thank you so much, and would love to talk to you again sometime. I know there's a box set coming out of Bewitched box set. Is that not correct?
There is. I think it might be just out now.
Okay.
I know they released it in Japan first, but there's a box set, and I'm on there giving a tour of the lot and the sets and things, so it's kind of fun.
Okay. All right, Erin, hey, thank you again so much, and would love to talk again. Have a wonderful year.
Thank you. You too. It was a pleasure.
You bet. We will be back with more right after this on Lewis at Large.